And we're live. Everyone, welcome to the Witness Underground podcast. Today we have a guest, Stef Woke Up, from her channel. She has a new channel on YouTube. We're going to get into her history with that channel. It's very new and has already kind of launched into the world. So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of why to start a channel, how she did it, why it's successful from her opinion. And also we're going to be getting into how she became a Jehovah's Witness, how she woke up from that, what her life looks like now, and her changed relationship with her kids and grandkids. And she, on her channel, also dives into the issues of suicide in high control groups, specifically this one. How are you doing, Stef? Welcome to the channel.
I'm good. Thank you. Just got back from Cabo on Friday, so I'm refreshed and rested. Had a little break from making videos this last week for the YouTube channel, but it was well needed.
For everyone who doesn't know who you are or hasn't checked out your channel, could you give them a brief idea of what you have focused on and what do you think the value of it is for you and for them?
Yeah, well, I do tell my story of how I woke up at the age of 49. In fact, that's been one of my biggest, it's had the most views. It's entitled How I Woke Up at 49. And I'm 50, just turned 51 now. And it was a long process. I talk about I try to bring awareness to the high rates of suicide within that religion of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I give my own experiences from my own life with it. And I think that's really important for the general public to even know about. And then, and the YouTube channel has really given me my voice back, because I'll get into it in a minute, but unfortunately, and I'll try not to get emotional, because when I talk about it, it's hits the heart really hard. But my husband and I have lost our 2 daughters, and they're shunning us, and we have not gotten to see our 5 grandkids in 2 years. So that has been devastating to us. But there is a silver lining I'll talk about, and how I just get through it, because you can't just give up on life, and other family members shunning us. So it's been devastating in that sense, but there's a silver lining as well.
Yeah, to give context, that is the most normal experience if you decide you don't want to make the decision to continue to be a cult member. If that's your decision, you get cut off by active members. And Stef is a great example of a recent person who's successfully navigated cult mind control and gotten out. It's a select, special, self-selected group of human beings, and we find each other on the outside. And it's really interesting. And there's quite a difference, because I'm now shunned for 15 years by my family, and you're shunned for 2 years. I can't tell you that it gets better. There's like little micro abuses happening on the regular. If there is any contact, it's not healthy. And anyway, I feel like there's this wave of people that just leave and then they're shocked. It's almost like the stages of grief that you have for their relationships. And it's like shocking and frustrating and challenging, and it hurts. And then eventually you accept it. Hopefully, and a lot of people don't have to, because like their family also get out, but it's like they have to do it on their own. But I think it's fascinating, the difference between someone who's 1 year out, or 1 or 2 like you, or someone who's 5 or 10 or 15, and on, like the relationship you have with the faith or the family. It has different stages to it that are very natural and based on time.
That's right. Yeah, there's
so you're having all the feels
to it, I would say, right? An evolution to it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh,
so do you want me to get into everything?
Well, yeah, I'm supposed to interview you, right? We're both show hosts, so I'll have to fight you for the host position.
Sorry.
My new favorite activist says Renee. I don't know if you know Renee, but she says you're her new favorite activist.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. Gosh,
Carrie,
thank you.
It still hurts no matter how long it's been. Carrie's been out a while as well, quite a while. And we're going to have her on this week as well. So everyone stay
Oh,
tuned
great.
for that. Yeah, she's
I'll
great. She's
look
also
for
not
that.
so far away from you in Southern California.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah, I'm in San
yeah.
Diego.
So thank you for starting us off with the general like pain of what you're going through, and we'll get into the details on that, how relationships are affected by this religion. And it's not so much, of course, the members themselves, like they're the one dishing out the punishment, but it's like they're coerced to do it. So I always see the people who are still in the religion as the actual victims. It sucks to be on the outside being mistreated, but at the same time, like to be the person in the religion, meeting out the punishments to your own family member who are on the outside. I feel for them as a cognitive dissonance that they must be going through, because like they probably still feel like they love you, but they have to also mistreat you because they're
They're
coerced to do so
absolutely
by the.
victims as well. Yeah, they're absolutely victims as well. And they don't even realize it, or maybe they do. But yeah.
So, can you give us? You can decide how much you want to say and self-edit, but how did you get involved with this religion?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the channel. And I appreciate the opportunity. As a woman, first of all, and, and as somebody of my age, there's not a lot of YouTubers out there my age and women. So I thought there was still room for me, even though there are a lot of YouTubers. I still felt there's a niche and there's room for everybody's story, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and the more people that tell their story, the better. That's really had a lot to do with me. They helped me to wake up. So it's my way of also giving back. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I was third generation born in, so was my husband. And my mom and stepdad, I'm not going to go into, all the details of my childhood, but my mom and stepdad, we moved us from Southern California to Central California when I was 12. And then by the time, and yeah, we were in a real small town that was, the witnesses were pretty, a lot more stricter, let's say, than Southern California. And they were pretty weird. I remember my dad, he worked for Southern California Edison, my stepdad, but he's raised me since I was 5. He worked for Southern California Edison, and he said the people at work were great. He loved the people at work, but the witnesses at the Kingdom Hall were strange. They just, and I think they had an attitude about us as this new family moving in from Southern California. Like, I don't know if they thought we were rebels or I'm not sure what, but we just weren't super welcomed. I mean, we were by a lot, but there were others that, we weren't. Then I was pregnant at 17 years old. I got pregnant like a month before my 17th birthday. So needless
Wow.
to say, we had like a shotgun wedding. And I followed in the footsteps of my stepsisters. Same thing happened. So I was an only child, but I acquired these stepsisters through my stepdad. And they were 7 and 10 years older than me. And they weren't witnesses, but they did become witnesses. They studied and became witnesses as adults, and at a pretty young age. And
Would you
I
say that
just
teen
loved them.
pregnancy is common in that time period with the witnesses, or is it just a
Not
fluke?
within the witnesses. When my sisters got pregnant, they were not witnesses. But I would say, but in the town I lived in, it was very common. It was a small town. I guess people didn't have anything else to do.
Drinking and
And
pregnancy, the pastime.
yeah, yeah, it was. I'm sure it was like just my rebellion. Of
Well, there's also no
feeling so
education for
strict.
sexual ed, right? Like no one's giving the talk about how to be safe. They're like, just don't do it. And then you're like,
Exactly.
well, I want to. And then people do it, but they do it without protection. So like then it perpetuates the problem that everyone who's saying who's saying abstain are trying to prevent, because then they created this situation where you're going to have teen pregnancies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I knew about, the safety protection and all that, but, just you're just dumb teenagers. And so I so here I got pregnant, but let me tell you, I was not baptized yet. I was not baptized, and I've never really even talked about this on my channel or anything, but
Ooh,
I
juicy.
never,
Everyone
I
stick
know,
around.
I know, I have a few things I've never talked about that I am going to talk about here, and one of them was I never got baptized to that point because I kind of knew I would probably have sex before marriage. I don't know, and then I thought, well, I don't want to get disfellowshipped, so, and sure enough, that's what happened. And so what happened is but I was a publisher, right? So when this all, and you can imagine being in a small town, it was like the talk of the town. It was a huge scandal that Stephanie was pregnant. And, and my boyfriend at the time, he's still my husband now. He had not
Oh,
been
wow.
baptized. Yeah, 34 years. June will be 34 years. So he was not baptized either. So anyway, they announced that I was no longer a baptized publisher, or sorry, unbaptized. Stephanie is no longer an unbaptized publisher, is how they announced it. That's their punishment from the platform.
She's done something
The
wrong.
public
Everyone already knows about it. The gossip mill is so strong, right?
The public humiliation, you have to endure.
Yeah. Shame,
And
shame, shame, shame.
shame. Yeah, I might as well have just had like a big A on my shirt,
Right.
Adultery, adulterer or whatever. So anyway, so we got married though, started our life. Let's see. I've got some notes here because I didn't want to forget anything. So 1990, I gave birth. At the end of 1990, I gave birth to our daughter. And then in 91, June of 91, we did get baptized. I figured I had nothing else I'm going to get in trouble for.
You've already done all the gravest sins.
Guess we'll get baptized. So yeah, so that's happened. And then this was another interesting thing I haven't talked about. So obviously starting at 17, 18 years old, married, we had a big hole to crawl out of. And at one point, so we moved down to Southern California about a little over a year after being married. I had an aunt and uncle that lived down in San Diego County at the beach. And I always wanted to live at the beach because growing up in Southern California, when I was a kid, we lived about an hour from the beach. We'd go there all the time in the summer. So I had this fond, memory of living at the beach. So we had an opportunity to move down there about a little over a year. Oh, before that, I got to say, going back to my baptism day, we got dunked at the same time. My husband and I, we thought that was cool. And we had no money to go out to eat afterwards. And, having a baby, it's kind of hard. So we just drove straight home. It was about a 45-minute ride home. It was still daylight because it was in the summer. We came home to the middle of a break-in. We were being broken into our home.
Whoa.
Yeah. And they had broken into our home about a month prior in the evening while we were having dinner with my parents. And the first time we had come home to them breaking in. We didn't see it. We just saw that they had took some stuff, but left a lot of things at the fence. Like they didn't have time to take it over the fence. So we had, they got away, for example, they got away with remote controls to our TV. And I'm telling you, we had crap. We had little tiny screen TV. We didn't have, I don't know why they would pick us. We did not have anything of real value.
Can't afford dinner.
I think they were trying to get the VCR in our tiny TV. But so we had put locks now on the windows, right? And it did work because when we came home after baptism that day, we opened the front door and you could see straight back to our back door kitchen window. And the guy, so he had already hopped the fence and was in our backyard and didn't even see us because his head was down, picking the lock like this.
Oh, wow.
And so I immediately left, went to our neighbors. Our managers lived across the walkway, and had them call the police. And Shane, the guy, ends up seeing us. Shane runs through the neighborhood trying to chase the guy and get him. I mean, he never did catch him, but so that was interesting. I was like, "Ooh, that was a bad omen, right? Bad omen for baptism day."
Right. Can we go back and unbaptize real quick? Because it's a bad sign.
Okay, so not that long, after that, we were like, we need to get out of here. We were literally living on the wrong side of the tracks, literally, of this little town in Central California, and always wanted to live at the beach. So we did. We moved to the beach in San Diego, and we've been here ever since. So then let's see what else. So yeah, we always had these financial struggles. Obviously, we started in the hole. And I remember having, and this is another first time I've talked about it. We had these financial struggles, and an elder told me, "Oh, why don't you go to the Catholic Church? Go to the Catholic Church. They give out boxes of food on Thursday mornings, and so you can get food that way." And well, first of all, I'm thinking my own church.
We're in the wrong church.
Help. I mean, I hadn't asked. I mean, to be honest, I hadn't asked for help, but I was like, why would they be sending me to a different church, for help? That sounds so weird. And
yeah, that's actually an incredible point to make, because this religion, Jehovah's Witnesses, has never helped anyone outside of their own congregation. And rarely do they help their own congregation. They only do it for the news, the publicity that it brings them. So if they're like in Hurricane Katrina, they love to talk about how they sent all these brothers and all this aid and food and supplies to rebuild the kingdom halls, and that's it. They rebuilt the churches, but not to help the people in their own congregation who had destroyed homes. And I'm sure people did out of their own heart, because like they were became friends with them, helping on the congregation, but there wasn't financial support. They were only feeding the workers if they were actually working on the church. Meanwhile, like every other religion and every other atheist and every other secular person was like, "Oh my God, this is a tragedy. The government's failing. We need to go help out these people." Just as an example.
Yeah.
And like religions constantly, even the pandemic was a great example. There were churches all over every neighborhood in Southern California giving out food every day for 2 years plus. Like witnesses will never do it.
And it's something that was totally like, I could not believe this when I learned about this, that they ask these people that they are helping for their insurance money. They're not paying, they're getting free volunteer workers, but they take the people who they're helping insurance money and pocket it. That was shocking to me.
They're a for-profit billion-dollar publishing company that doesn't pay taxes. It's like, if there was ever a moment to not like swindle people, this would be a great moment to show that you're actually like give some goodwill back to the population.
Exactly. But no, they don't do that. So
here you are, freshly baptized, robbed person who's being told to go to the Catholics for help.
Catholic Church.
By the Jehovah's Witness leadership.
And I do remember asking him, Scott, I remember asking him, like, what? I thought we weren't supposed to go to a church. Like, we're not supposed to have, we can't even go to
like, don't go inside. Jesus will kill you if you go inside, but.
Yeah, we're not even supposed to go to like a wedding in a church, right? So like to take their food, like it was so bizarre. And I did do it one time. I went, and I can't tell you how uncomfortable I felt. Like, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable now, if I was in need, because I'm out. But as a JW, an active JW, I thought, oh my God, I was going to Satan's temple. You might as well have sent me to Satan's temple, the way they condemned the Catholic Church. Here I am on a Thursday morning, in my little car, and they are giving me, and it was great. They gave me a huge amount of food. It was incredible. It was very impressive. But yeah, so that was something I've never talked about yet on my channel. But I always thought that, wow, what a story, that was crazy. And then I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm going to look over here because I do have some like notes. I don't want to like forget anything. Okay, then my second daughter was born in 1994. And then let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything around that. Oh, I do need to back up to my first daughter's birth. So this is interesting. And this was the other thing I've never talked about on my channel yet. I do plan to, but I almost lost my life because I would not take a blood transfusion with the birth of my first daughter. I was only 17, had a great pregnancy. Everything went fine. I had no epidural. I probably should have, but it was because it was horrendous. But anyway, at the last minute, yeah, I had to have an episiotomy because her heart rate had dropped. And anyway, they got her out. She was healthy, and she was fine. But then what happened is my uterus would not contract back to shut off all the blood vessels. And that's how they explained it to me. And the only time my uterus would contract was when the nurse would come in and need the uterus, right? And then she'd go away, and I kept hemorrhaging, and my blood count got down to, I believe it was 8. And it's something I just heard recently was that I think at 7 they want to give you a blood transfusion. Well, and remember, I wasn't even baptized yet, but they brought a specialist in. So here they're like, oh my God, we're gonna lose this poor teenager. And they brought a specialist in to see, like, hey, because they had given me everything. They had given me shots of Pitocin. They had given me shots of this and that, like things that usually will help to contract that uterus. And nothing was helping at this point. They said they were going to try one more drug that they had to get from another hospital, but they didn't have a lot of hope that it was going to work. And if that didn't work, they were going to have to give me a hysterectomy. But they said, we can't guarantee you're going to wake up from the surgery because your blood count is so low. Are you comfortable with this? So I literally had my legs up in stirrups, and the specialist is telling me this and says, are you comfortable with that? And I was so brainwashed that I said, oh yeah. I said, yeah. Oh, because he said, is this your belief or just your family's? I said, no, it's my belief. I don't want to take blood. I said, don't get me wrong, I don't want to die. But I'm not going to take blood. And so I made it out of it. Obviously, I'm still here to talk about it. What happened is a new nurse came on duty. She was like kneading my stomach where the uterus is, and she like quickly did it and walked away. And I was like, hey, nurse, that's, come back. That's the only time my uterus contracts. And she says, no, that needs to work on its own. It needs to like work on its own. And she goes, I'll be back to check on it. And sure enough, said they were only giving me about 10 or 15 more minutes. And little by little, my uterus started working and working and working. And I didn't have to have the blood transfusion, but I was this close to dying. And, looking back now, and, the verse that you weren't supposed to eat animal blood, it wasn't talking about a blood transfusion that could actually save your life. I just think that's horrible that I could have easily lost my life and my kid wouldn't have had a mother. And that policy is just horrible. Now that I know better, as they say, when you know better, you do better. So yeah, so that was another thing. So then I gave birth to my second daughter in 1994. And I had no problems there. I did have midwives, but I also was a little more prepared. I took special herbs and stuff to, get my uterus and everything ready for birth. So I did not have any problems, thankfully, with that birth. And then I'm going to fast forward, way forward now, to our oldest daughter. She got married in 2010. She was 19. And by now we were financially stable. We were able to give her a beautiful wedding. It was on a vineyard. here in Southern California. And it was really awesome because I got to live vicariously through her because we had a tiny wedding, just with our like siblings there and parents, but like this was like a full on awesome wedding. And so I was like living vicariously through her. And then our second daughter got married in February of 2013. And same thing, we were fortunate enough to give her a beautiful wedding. It was, oh my gosh, just amazing. I had a lot of people there and at a beautiful venue here in Southern California. And again, I've got to live vicariously through her. And but then this is where things kind of take a turn for the worse. A month after our second daughter was married, my husband's the oldest of 7 kids plus 2 half siblings, but his brother that was closest in age to him, in fact, he was my age. His name was Chet. Him and I were the same age. So that would have been at the time, like 39. Yeah, 39 at the time. March of 2013, a month after my daughter's wedding, he committed suicide. And he hung himself. And he left behind 3 children.
Wow.
And he had been divorced, and he had been disfellowshipped a couple of times, and each time he was suicidal and struggled with depression. And what happened in March of 2013 is he had a little mishap, and is not real. And this is interesting. He wasn't disfellowshipped at the time. He was actually in good standing. So it took me by total surprise. What happened is he had a little mishap. It was quick, and I don't think it was anything he would have been disfellowshipped for, because by now the elders have been, trained to, they didn't disfellowship you as easily. And so I think he would not have been disfellowshipped, but he was being dragged into another committee meeting. And he just knew did not want to go through that again. And so he chose to end his life, and it was just devastating. So yeah. He was my husband was the oldest of these 7 kids, and then he was the next brother down. And they were the closest in relationship wise. And so it was just heartbreaking. And he had, like I said, and he had been suicidal before, but never, succeeded.
How old was he and how old were you at that time?
We were 39. Yeah, I might have just turned 40 because he was a few months. My birthday's in April. His was in October. So I had just turned 40 and he was, or let me see, March. No, we both were 39 when he did it. That's right. It was a month before I turned 40. Yeah. Yeah. And 3 beautiful kids. He's a grandpa now. Had he still been alive, he has a grandchild now. And
Wow.
so, and he was always the life of the party. I think it was a shock to most people, maybe not people that knew him real well because of, some of his struggles with depression and stuff. But I think for most people, it was shocking because he was always the life of the party and fun. But unfortunately, a lot of times those are the people that are hiding a lot of stuff, they want to be
overcompensation or just a regular amount of compensation, probably.
Yeah, well, they want to be they're trying to be the person that they, wish they were, they need from other people, so yeah, it was awful. But so what happened with that was, they were going to allow us to have the memorial for him at the Kingdom Hall. However, when we as a family, we crunched, well, me, I did most of the work for it all. when I crunched the numbers, I thought the Kingdom Hall is not going to hold the amount of people that we knew would be coming, because he was very popular and we have a huge family. So the family alone was going to take up a huge amount of the Kingdom Hall, right? So as grateful as we were that they were going to let us have it at the Kingdom Hall, we ended up declining, and we ended up having it at a local resort. We rented the Grand Ballroom, and it's a good thing because we had 420 people,
Oh, wow. So
which
your
was funny.
vision
And we
for who
said,
would come, it was
yeah,
correct. The amount of people showed up.
yeah,
Yeah.
my calculations were like spot on, and it was a beautiful service. And oh, and we did have to laugh that when I had asked the elders or the attendants and stuff, to keep track of how many people were there, and when they told us 420, we're like, oh, Chet would have loved that number.
Was he smoking at the time? Was that a
Oh,
thing?
I think he had been a little bit
Yeah.
here and there. Yeah.
Nice.
We were like, yeah, he would have loved that number. So that was funny. But so then so we got past that. That was
Actually,
what
I wanted to pause there because I feel like it's hard to pinpoint what suicide is caused by. And I feel like you hinted at it without saying outright. But what do you think were the direct contributing factors for him to make that decision or to do that?
Oh, I absolutely believe it was the isolation. The isolation of his family, because very close family, and like I said, there was lots of siblings and extended family, like lots of cousins and aunts and uncles, and so he was a well-liked person, so he had a lot of friends. So if you can imagine having your whole social network taken from you, because as Jehovah's Witnesses, you aren't really allowed to have, it is not encouraged to have worldly association with people outside the organization. So most of us growing up in it didn't have a whole lot, maybe a few friends here and there that were outside, but not really very many. And I can only imagine somebody who, really fed off association and attention when they don't have that has got to like put you into
Yeah.
a horrible black hole.
Mm-hmm.
And so unfortunately what happened after this is there was a whole slew I'm going to get into it, but it's just like it kept happening, more and more and more suicides. Not in our family. There
Like
was actually another one in the
in the
family.
community.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's actually
then
really common in this religion and associated with this religion because of the shunning. But I have yet to find hard data. I don't think any researcher is studying it. So if you're out there, you're thinking about doing anthropologic research or just data on mental health, this is a huge need. There's no obvious study that I know of yet. If there is, let me know. Let us know in the comments. But it would be really valuable to understand the skewed number of people associated with this particular religion, or even similar high control groups. Like, what do these groups do to society? Because we need new laws about this. I feel like just like we're at this new phase, like you were talking about your channel, adding something back to the world or to the community.
absolutely.
Try,
Oh my gosh.
that we're just beginning to help people understand how dangerous Jehovah's Witnesses are. And if you look at other cults and other podcasts and shows about cults, Jehovah's Witnesses almost never make that list. And there are obviously groups that are doing that are definite negatives on society and abusive towards their own members. But Jehovah's Witnesses are maybe one of the world's biggest groups that do these types of things, that actually have a death toll left in their wake.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you make a good point. There isn't any hard evidence to show it. What there is circumstantial evidence. So when you talk to Jehovah's Witnesses, most of them know a slew of suicides, whereas
People in their own community,
I think
their
this is so
friends, their
important to talk
families.
about. Whereas when I talk to my friends that have never been Jehovah's Witnesses, most of them don't know anybody that has committed suicide, or maybe one or two. Whereas, like, I can list about 10.
Yeah.
And other people, other witnesses can name off a lot too. I mean, so it's circumstantial evidence if you were like in a courtroom, but I wish somebody would do, I don't know how that would work, but would do some research on this or start a study. Yeah, we really need somebody to
In
do
my
that.
opinion, it's a criminal organization for the vast amount of suicides from mental health that is caused by being a member and controlled by this organization, or having your family held hostage, like we named the title of this video. After that, destroying the family, destroying your community, taking away access to communication. It's the thing we do to our worst prisoners. We put them into a hole in the prison where they're isolated from society, because that is the ultimate punishment for human beings, to take your social connections away. Plus, as Denise writes here, the death toll for not having blood alone is genocide. So there's the blood transfusion, which is denial of medical care, and they have a special department. This is totally aside from your story and suicide, but there's people in the religion who it's their job to stand at your hospital bed and convince your family not to give medical care to your family member who's dying or suffering. And then they die, and then they're used as a martyr and paraded around. So that's dark. And then there's child sex abuse. Like, these are huge, huge issues that are criminal. But this religion has found a way to a loophole in the legal system in this country, but every country in the world where they exist, and they're getting away with it, and it sucks.
They're getting away with it. Mm-hmm.
And the one that I guess is on the side that my film is about is Shunning, Witness Underground documentary. And that's one that's related directly to your brother's story, right? Is shunning, and how that eventually leads to suicide. So back to your story.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. That's one of my biggest reasons for doing the channel, is to bring awareness to that. So that was 2013, and that took a long time to, you never totally heal from it, but so that took a long time to get over. But now moving on to it was 2019. I had a friend, her name was Sable, and she got disfellowshipped. And it was either 2 weeks or 2 months, I don't remember now. But she shot herself in the head. And she was gorgeous. I mean, gorgeous. If you go onto my YouTube channel and you watch my video, How I Woke Up at 49, you'll see pictures of all of these people, by the way, that I'm going to be talking about today. I mean, not that gorgeous has anything to do with it, but
yeah, I mean, if you're a solid 6 and you shoot yourself in that, it's also tragic.
I think what I'm trying to get at is that when you see people's pictures, it makes it more real. Like, these were real people, loving people. These were fathers, mothers, aunts, uncles, daughters, sons, so it's really horrible. And with what happened with Sable, of course, because she had already been disfellowshipped, the elders would not give her a proper memorial. And so thankfully,
because of the suicide.
And she had been disfellowshipped.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. See, Chet, my brother, he had not been disfellowshipped yet. He hadn't even gone to the judicial committee.
Oh, but he had sinned, but he hadn't been punished yet.
They wanted to meet with him over
interrogated.
This tiny mishap.
And then his reaction to the interrogation.
Ridiculous. And he was like, I don't want to get, I'm not going to be drugged back into that. And
yeah.
Well, Sable had been disfellowshipped, and so that she didn't get a proper memorial. But I had a friend, we had a common friend, I should say, Carmen. Shout out to Carmen. I love her, and she has since left the organization as well. She left about the same time my husband and I did. But she had a get together at her house. Carmen had a get together at her house for to celebrate the life of Sable, but none of the elders would come. I mean, that is so sad.
This is okay. So
sad.
every other religion on the planet, they offer a couple of things. And one of them, it's super important. Okay, first of all, community. Like, you walk in the door, these are people you can hang out with because you're there for the same reason. Whether you're low or you're high on life or in your situation, like, you go there and you can congregate around the concept of God or higher self or something. There's value there. The other thing is helping you cope with your emotions around death and the transition through grief. And this religion doesn't do that unless you are an approved member at the time of death. And it doesn't even matter if your family are. They will tell a new person, they have like multiple mouths that they speak. One is they love bomb and pitch and sell to recruit new people. One thing, which is you're going to see your dead loved ones again. But if you're an active member or you were an active member, but you like are no longer approved by them, it's like, we don't care about that person. They're our enemy. They're an enemy of God. And if you're a grieving family member for them, like, fuck you. We are not going to support you in any way through the grieving process because that person was not on our team. And it's like, yo, death is so hard to handle.
Yeah, that's right.
The last thing we need right now is you guys trying to bicker and fight about whose team my brother was on.
Yes.
In the final moments.
Oh, it was, and I'll tell you, her husband, my friend Sable's husband, they were splitting up, but he's never been the same. He never got over that. He's I'm not going to go into his story, but it's not mine to tell, but he's never been the same. And he loved her, he loved her, even though ultimately they did split up. And that's a long story in itself. And it's, like I said, not my story to tell, but my point is, when somebody commits suicide, it affects so many other people.
Yeah.
And that's important to realize. And you were talking about emotions. I thought that was a great point, Scott. Witnesses are really trained to just cut off all emotions. For example, even when we're not talking about this grim stuff of suicide, like when they said you could wear a beard now, they told you're not allowed to have any emotion about that. You can't be annoyed that, well, I've been saying we should be able to have beards. We should be able to wear beards, and we should, you're not allowed to have any emotion. They said do not talk about that. Keep that to yourself. You just go with the flow and you obey. Wow. Obey. You're not allowed to have emotion. And that is really devastating to people when they're not allowed to feel things.
Yeah. Is there any other scenarios? The beard one is strange. A strange thing that's just, it's recent in the news, it's recent in the culture. They just they dialed the knob left or right a little bit on what women can wear and what men can do with their bodies, but it's still a behavior control in the bite model of control.
Yeah, I want to do a video about that. About the bite model and how it is a mind control cult, because witnesses don't believe it's a cult. They have. I probably would have even said the same thing when I was in it. Like, oh, no, we're not a cult, because cults only have like one leader. We have 8 leaders or 9 leaders.
Right.
It's always changing the number. But
I was just listening to Alexandra Klein, I believe her name is. She's a PhD out of Minneapolis, who is an expert in this, and her and Yanya Lilik. And they were both on Cult Hackers, which is how I've gotten to know who they are and what they're about a bit. But I think it was Yanya who talked about how the charismatic leader, they did have a charismatic leader. And then they had a different leader who was not charismatic, but that changed the religion. And now the group of men, the Mormons have had a charismatic leader, and it changed to like a rule-based, similar format until they have a governing body as well. But the governing body has by proxy, the same respect and obedience and compliance as the original charismatic leader had. So they just kind of inherited those qualities, and it's not uncommon. Other cults end up having that over time if they are able to survive all the shakeups and the disillusionment and the false prophecies and all the chaos that they cause. They usually end up like Jehovah's Witnesses. They're like a bizarre, morphed cult over time. But yeah, and the bite model has emotion control in it. And so you're talking about the beard, which is behavior control, but you're not allowed to have emotions around it. So those are also doing emotional control with the beard rule lifting.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sure
going
there's
back
still
to
rules,
like
but
the suicide, like so it kind of full circle where you're not allowed to have a memorial for the person that was disfellowshipped. No emotion there. Nope. Can't show your condolences. They couldn't even show up to the get together at my friend's house for her. Can't show emotion, can't show support, you can't show just compassion. You're not allowed to even show fucking compassion, you know?
yeah, it's crazy. And we dealt with this, and it's such a heavy topic, and it's something that's difficult in the film side of things, like trying to affect change through social impact filmmaking. And there's a lot, like a documentary every year, and they usually try to find something deeply like heavy emotion, and sometimes they do that really tastefully, and other times it's a bit exploitative. And in our film, we also discuss the funeral thing, and then how the people that were disfellowshipped were mistreated by other active members with their self-righteous stance against the people trying to just show support for the family and try to get support because they are part of that family that lost somebody. And it's like this. It's such a dramatic moment to show people showing their true colors, really, and the religion and the active members of the religion and the leadership there showing their true colors, as taught, as planned, how they treat former members and non-supporters. I guess it's really dark.
And I would like to point out that I'm going to go on to talk about some more personal experiences with suicide. But I would like to point out that outside of the ones I personally was affected by, this was not an isolated case in the San Diego area. I know it's not an isolated case in the world either of JWs, but even just in my world of San Diego, this at the time, these were not isolated cases. I did personally know of other happening. There was someone in my congregation. I've chosen not to go into the detail about it because I can't go into every little detail. I don't want to, I don't. There's just not time. But there's so many people, and in neighboring congregations in this area that had been just happening, and
multiple times.
So that's why I feel like it's important to talk about it. And I do talk about how they did it. I know it's gruesome, but the reason I do it is because it needs to be talked about. And it brings reality to what the freak is going on, and and how ugly it is. It shows how ugly it is, and this is how desperate people are, and this is how sad people are that they're willing to take their life.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
and we have a comment that someone just went through this in January with their ex-wife, took their life in January.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
No support, no words were spoken to them, nothing ever written by anyone, because this person was disfellowshipped a few months before.
Oh my God. You see, there it goes back to the not allowed to have emotion or show condolences and show, any love.
Like dehumanizing of their own members.
Uh-huh. And this is also, all of this I'm talking about, it was building up to my waking up and realizing the lack of love. It is ingrained in you since you're little. Oh my God, we have so much love, the organization where, worldwide, we have so much love, and bullshit.
It's spiritual paradise, Steph.
Yeah.
Why did you leave spiritual paradise?
Yeah.
It's
It
laughable,
was
right? It's
like
obnoxious.
my eyes were like starting to be, wide open. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is 2020, the pandemic hits. And I'm going to tell you, my husband Shane and we thought we died and went to heaven because we just I get we just didn't really like going to meetings, but you do it because you think that's what you're supposed to be doing. And one, we were saving time and going to the meeting, saving gas, going to the meeting. Because here in Southern California, one way to we didn't go to the closest Kingdom Hall where we were, which a lot of people don't go to their one in their territory. It's not uncommon at all. In fact, most people didn't. In fact, the congregation we were in, maybe 2 people lived in that neighborhood, or that their territory they covered, because it was very expensive neighborhood to live in. And so, and the people that lived there, I think, lived in low income housing. So anyway, it would take us at least 15 minutes to go one way, 15 to 20 depending on traffic in Southern California, to get one way to the Kingdom Hall and then back. So when the pandemic hit, we were like, oh my God, this is so awesome. And then we did try when everything was on
Never
Zoom.
go again. Yeah, go
What's that?
digital. What was so awesome was not going, right?
Yeah, so what was so awesome was not having to go. We were Zooming.
Which is
Everybody
hilarious.
was on Zoom. And we thought, wow, this is great. And at first, I will say, maybe the first, I don't know, less than 5, maybe 5 meetings or something, get dressed up from, the waist up. and then and my husband would never wanted to be on camera. He was at the most he was half on camera. And he was a rebel. And
so funny that they demanded that you show your face and also be dressed for church, but sitting in your living room or at your dining room
with your slippers on.
Right. Just your buttoned up shirt with a tie, but in your underwear.
Yeah, exactly. It was funny. So we thought, this is great, man. This is so easy. And then after a few meetings, we didn't even go on camera. So we were just listening in. But we were diligent about listening in. And then, I had a friend who was married to an elder in Washington, the state of Washington. And I remember her sending me a picture of her feet up on the, mantle, fireplace mantle or something, and they were watching the Zoom meeting, and she had a glass of wine in her hand. And she says, how did we do meetings any other way?
Nice. Right? That's what church should be. Hanging out, drinking some wine. Whether or not it is the blood of your dead Savior. Yeah, exactly. That's actually something I did have some fond memories of, is the book study at least had social hour after, with a baked goods and treats and fresh fruit and drinks and sometimes beer or wine after the church meeting for an hour at somebody's house. It's yeah, this I can get behind, because this is celebrating community. We have actual friendships beyond just this church thing that we do, for following the formula, the ritual.
Yeah.
And other churches actually have that and prioritize the community aspect of the experience of going to church. And it's interesting that you had this experience, drinking wine during church from our house. Yeah.
Telling me this,
Yeah. Also an indication there might be an alcohol problem in the Jehovah's Witnesses. Just saying.
Just saying.
It was nice to have a coping mechanism that unfortunately is addictive.
Correct. I know. Yeah. So, and then the other thing that was great, eventually then I would end up having, we Sundays were great. We would turn on the Sunday meeting, and I would be making champagne breakfast, while we listened to church.
Nice.
It was awesome.
And mimosas.
It was so awesome. We thought we had died and went to heaven. We thought, this is great.
Church should always be a brunch with alcohol.
Yeah, so we were digging it, right? Well, then as things progressed, and this is a controversial matter, and I'm not here to argue it one way or the other. It doesn't matter to me, what people think one way or the other. That's not the point of what I'm going to talk about. But as most of us know, the leaders of the Jehovah's Witnesses, it's almost like a pyramid, and at the top they have these leaders, and it depends on the year how many they have. At the time they had 8 leaders during the pandemic. Right now they have 9 leaders, but for a short while they had 10. I mean, it just kind of fluctuates. But so the leaders were started pushing the vaccine, and I'm not, saying you should or shouldn't get it. I'm at all. But I had friends that got it. I have friends that didn't get it. I have family that got it. I have family that didn't get it. I love them all. I just am saying that my husband and I did our own research, and we did not, want to get an experimental jab. And my daughters did not get it. My parents did not get it. And everybody was in my family were not for it. And my dad was an elder. Well, let's see. So I couldn't understand why they kept pushing it, because here's the thing. In their own literature, since I was a kid, we have been taught and programmed that you do not push your medical agendas, let's say, on other people in the congregation, because what's good for one person may not be good for another. Well, that makes sense to me, right? So I kept thinking, what the heck? Why are they pushing this? They should just be like a neutral thing. If you want to get it, great. If you don't want to get it, great. I could not understand why they kept pushing this agenda, and that was bothersome. And
it makes you wonder about like what's going on behind the scenes of the leadership, right? Whether you're an act out. Like I was also curious, like why would they take that stand? It's very strange. Where other religions were like, we're not doing it, and you should come to church anyways, like risk it all for Jesus. And they're like, nope, get the jab. But like they're a controlling group. Like people are going to comply. They're going to listen to them. And that's like the danger. If you ever read Hitchens' God is Not Great, his book, he talks about how there's different religious groups. This is just one, but people that are very well respected in general, like Gandhi and the Dalai Lama, he makes a big point about how dangerous it is for humanity to have people in positions like that, because they can say one thing and then some percentage of the population is going to obey, and that could be super detrimental to society. Like how do you stop this from happening? But it's like the story as old as time to have a leader of some kind, or a spiritual leader.
Yeah. Interesting. So, I even wrote into the society, and I provided. I had a medical exemption from my doctor, like legit, Scott, legit, because I had had a anaphylactic shock reaction to a previous shot of it was like prednisone. And so my doctor said, yeah, this is probably not safe for you to get. It's not worth the risk. And I sent them this, and I said, "What? The fact that you're pushing it so much and causing a division within the congregations makes me feel really bad. It makes me feel bad that you're making me feel like I'm less than for not getting it, And well, so next thing you know, they sent elders to our house. Not
Whoa,
not
to
not a
talk
big
about the
surprise.
vaccine?
Yeah. They sent
Whoa, what?
so my husband got a call from a friend of ours, a friend of ours. He was an elder, and he wanted to meet with us, and Shane was like, "Nope, we're good," because we knew what that was going to be about, right? He's like, "Nope, we're good." Well, he kind of kept bugging him. So finally, like third time, my husband says, okay, you can come if you just come in casual clothes, but you got to bring beer. And only you can come. Well, so he comes, and sure enough, he brings a second elder, of course. And the minute I saw the second elder walk up through our property, because we did sit outside, I knew exactly why he chose that elder. And it was because that elder had not had the vaccine. And I knew he hadn't had it. They were real into, natural path, natural, good, healthy stuff. So, and I was aware that they hadn't had it. So I was like, not surprised. And long story short, they accused me of causing divisions. Oh, because I have to say, on my Instagram, I wasn't really posting my opinion. I was just posting articles, like reputable articles that you could go fact check, with studies and blah, 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 where there was some risks involved. And that was the only point I was trying to make, was like, if there's a risk, there should be a choice. And if you fall, and I felt like, if you felt there was a risk not taking it, well, that you should have the choice to have it,
Right. Like, what happened to, it's a conscience matter, like they do with the whole blood issue. It's like, you can't have blood, but if you take the blood, different components, and you could have white blood cells, red blood cells, platelets, plasma, almost said ectoplasm. you can put all the constituent parts that make up the thing into your body, and that's fine. There's no issue with that. It is a conscience matter, right? They make this whole thing they've been doing since the 80s about that. And for this, they're like, nope, you actually have to take it. And it's like, well, what are these leaders doing? Did they just buy a bunch of stock in Pfizer or something? Because they're $1 billion company, and they probably schmooze with bigwigs. They sold their property to the Trump family during the pandemic. It's like, probably not exact. I mean, it makes you wonder. I mean, I'm talking about I'm making up a conspiracy right now. I have no idea, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know either, but
like, it does make you wonder, why would they take such a hard stance on something without any backup and without making it a personal choice? Because they always made it a little bit of a personal choice, but they would still tell you that you're wrong if you made a personal choice that wasn't like following the leadership. Like, you can't just go get a blood transfusion. You'll get kicked out of the religion and lose your ability to communicate with your family for the rest of your life, and they'll make your family punish you. And they do a very good job of controlling people and making them do that. But like, at least it gave you the illusion that you had a choice.
It would be like a little blip. They would have this long, they'd have these videos for Jehovah's Witnesses that, updates and monthly broadcasts. This is important for people that have never been Jehovah's Witnesses to understand. They'd have these broadcasts and updates on TV talking about how you should have it, and how all the Bethelites have gotten it, all the people at the headquarters have got it, and we're really encouraging you to get it. And then they're at the very, very end, they'd have this little blip that, but it's up to you. It's up to you. And what happened was, they knew what they were doing. So they were basically making people believe, like, they were dividing the congregation, because the true heavy duty followers, like hardcore, they were like, if you don't, they're telling us to take it. So if you don't take it, in turn, you're not listening to the Lord, because they believe that these 8-9 leaders at the top, that they literally call themselves God's channel on earth. So if you're not listening to their direction and what they are telling you to do on these broadcasts and these updates on TV, then you are disobeying the Lord. That is what it translates to. So then somebody like me, who is a little more vocal about it, saying you should have a choice, where there's a risk, there's a choice, or there should be a choice, then I am not obeying God, and so little by little, Scott, people were like dropping off from my Instagram.
Oh, wow. You're already getting like socially ostracized by digital friendship loss.
Yeah, like,
You're bleeding
ooh,
out digital friendships.
yeah, ooh. So, and then during this meeting with the elders that they sent to our home, uh, I had said, well, I just we went over the stuff. Oh, they reminded me that they were like, well, the leaders, the governing body, who they refer to, that is has said in writing that if you, and I'm paraphrasing here, but if we may tell you to do something at some point that doesn't make any logical sense, but you need to obey it. And I literally put my hand out like this and I said, well, I don't subscribe to that. You know, I mean, think of that cult where they told them to take the Kool-Aid and they all died. Like
Right.
you do gotta use your brain,
Mhm.
and so I was like, well, you can't just abide by that, like you gotta use your brain. So I said, well, I don't subscribe to that. And by the way, my husband was backing me up 100% on all of this. And and I brought out to them, I said, brothers, I'm like, I know what the governing body is pushing. Okay. I understand. I get it. But let me tell you, I have a lot of people on my Instagram private messaging me every day, sometimes multiple times a day, thanking me for what I was posting because they said we have no voice. In fact, and there was people that said we've had friends for years and years and years since we were kids. They won't even talk to us anymore because we didn't take the jab. And and then, or I would have people say, "Oh, can you send me that article that you posted?" Uh, I mean, just I can't tell you how many people thanked me for having the cojones to post stuff, And I told the brothers that. So anyway, long story short, they didn't like that I was, not agreeing to their whims. And I did say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll compromise. When the society quits pushing it, I'll quit posting things about it. I think that's a fair compromise.
Right. Actually, my family, just because I made a similar pitch in response to being basically attacked by my individual family. When I made Witness Underground, the documentary, I was in the neighborhood of my extended family and immediate family that have been shunned by for 15 years. And I dropped in on my grandparents who haven't been to church in over 20 years, but they're still kicking. And I dropped by and they're like, well, I heard you're making movies about Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm like, yeah. He's like, why? I'm like, well, your religion's making movies about propaganda for the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I have a voice and I'm going to use it. But like, what's the difference? Like, you're making videos. Do you even know what they do? He's like, what movies are you talking about? I was like, they have an entire TV studio they spent many, many millions of dollars on to broadcast and become televangelists. He's like, no, they did not. I was like, Grandpa, you haven't been to a meeting in like, at the time is like 15 years. It's basically a different religion now. He's like, well, I don't know if that's true. And I was like, they've had a media like division for about 2 decades now. He's like, I've never seen any of that stuff. I'm like, well, maybe don't go to church. But like, it's not any different. I made one film and it's going to be years before it's out. Like, no one's going to see it. Like, you might not even survive. I didn't say that. He's like, oh, why don't you come in? And then we had like an awesome like 6-hour hangout, and it's the last time I saw them. It was beautiful.
Oh,
but it's like,
nice.
Yeah, if the religion's doing propaganda and they're convincing an army of people around the world to replicate that and to sacrifice their own individuality to promote that through just repeating propaganda, like, I'm going to say something about it because it's not true. It's not accurate. This is a religion. They walk around with their carts that say happy family life. Meanwhile, they're actually destroying families left and right. And that's why we make channels, right? There's someone in the comments who's just harassing everyone in the comments right now, but he's basically saying everything we're saying is a lie. And it's like, These are our actual lived experiences. Like it's laughable that you're even here commenting on this. It's
He's being a
fine. I'm happy to
bad
have
boy
you.
listening. Bad boy
Right.
listening.
Yeah, it's fine. You're welcome to be here, and it's fine. We're all like gonna just keep on speaking what is real, though. So
Yeah, we have to speak our own truth and what we've
yeah,
experienced personally.
yeah. And
So
actually, you're saying that all the stuff that Steph is saying isn't true, but this is Steph's moment of realizing that this religion is actually a nefarious, dangerous cult, and she's lost family in death because of exactly this drama that you're saying isn't real. It's real. People are dying
it's
because of
real.
it. So if
It's
this is Steph's
real.
waking up story, we're going to hear it regardless of what nonsense you're writing in the comments. And it's fine, your comments are there, but they mostly speak about you more than they do about whether or not
Yeah.
Steph is telling the truth.
So
Steph,
the next funny thing was during this elders meeting was, okay, so I obviously they weren't getting me to apropos, or I don't know what the word is. I'm probably using the wrong word, acquiesce to their wishes. But it went well. It wasn't like a heated discussion, or like everybody was nice. But this guy, the one elder that had been jabbed and probably boosted to the hilt, he went home. he went home and deleted me from Instagram. His wife was following me too. Made her. She's so sweet. Oh my gosh, love her. Made her delete me, and then he didn't stop at that. Then blocked me from seeing their Instagram, pages. Like, woo, oh, punish me.
right.
It was like, how old are you? It's like so childish.
What can we do to get Steph? Because she's not following our God the way we want her to.
Yeah,
Let's punish her.
Just had to laugh about that. Like, oh, these
You
people.
don't want me over for brunch? It's fine. I didn't really want to hang out with you anyways. I mean, that would be even more tragic, but like you lost your digital access to their feed. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
The world is
Ooh.
infinite. There's way too much information.
My life imploded after that.
Yeah. Actually, it's funny because I think that's like a common thing this last couple decades. When I got out, my active family members stayed in touch. It was a couple of years of transition before a full shunning impact. But there were these weird moments where like they wouldn't talk to me, they wouldn't respond to messages. And then all of a sudden, all of them would. It's like, well, do you guys all talk to each other? Because now you're communicating, but it's also under some weird guise of like authenticity. And it's like, oh, they just want to like get me to go to the memorial or something, right? And it's like, I find out what the real reason is. And it's like, don't market to me. You're my sister. Like, I don't want that, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden all of them would delete me from Facebook at the same time. And it's like, seriously, it's like you deleted my contact information from the phone book, basically. Like, it's your phone book. Like, I still.
They end up talking. They end up communicating, and then they're like, "Yeah, we got to cut him off."
Right, but then they would add me back, and it's like, what's going on? And then there was like a moment where they all decided that they're going to have me in their life again after 3 years of this on and off thing. And I talked to one of the sisters, and I was like, what's going on? Like, you haven't talked to me, but you did delete me and then add me back and then delete me and add me back. And then now what's going on? Like, what should I expect now? She's like, oh, I was really, really young and really, really stupid. I'll never do that again. And then a few months later, they all deleted me from Facebook. And I'm like, nothing has changed on my side. I have no idea what's going on, but they probably like went to a convention or something. Which is like weird. I don't know what to call these things, but it's like
I heard a talk somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're like, did you hear? What do you think we should do about Scott? Scott's like the black sheep. We got to do something about it. It's like, you guys are ridiculous. Like, either you want a relationship or you don't. I'm not going to keep on like sending messages without a response. I know you read them all. So that's like the value of having a channel, right? It's like they can, if they want to know what I think,
they'll come on and listen. They will. I know my family does. I know 100%. Right. So
it's also a good reason to do it. Like, if anybody's out there thinking about starting a YouTube channel, there's all kinds of good reasons, and we'll get into that. I hope. I don't know how much time you have. I'm good to keep on going.
Oh, but, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move on to the next thing. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, okay. This is another kind of sad turn. fall of 2021, I got a phone call that my cousin, again, drop dead gorgeous. I mean, just, I don't know. When you look at her, you just would have never thought she was, again, one of the people that were like life of the party, just, uh, she,
Everything's awesome. Lego
awesome about her.
theme song.
She had committed suicide. I found out. I think it was my biological dad had called me because it was somebody on my bio dad's side of the family. So I immediately fly down to Florida to be with my cousin, my first cousin. It was my first cousin's daughter who had done this. And the one that had committed suicide was 28 when she did it. And this is an interesting story. She shot herself in the head.
This is the same person you mentioned before?
No.
This is another drop dead gorgeous family member who also shot herself in the head.
Yeah, the one before was Sable, was a friend. Now this is a cousin of mine, okay?
Wow.
And this was fall of 2021.
So much suicide in your family.
And this child, this kid, I call her child. She was 28 at the time, but she was like close to my daughter's age, and friends with my kids, and her mom was my first cousin. So I immediately flew down to Florida where they lived, and to be with my cousin, my first cousin, and support her through this horrible thing. And I was there almost 10 days. And Scott, I will say this was a turning point for me in my waking up process, because, well, first of all, one thing, I was just sick of all these suicides happening. An interesting thing about my cousin, there's multiple facets here. One, my cousin, this one I went to go support her mother, the one that committed suicide, the 28-year-old, she had been lesbian or had lesbian relationships prior. She had only gotten baptized about a year prior to this. Wow. She was 28. So she was like almost like 27-ish before she even got baptized. Trapped. Because it made sense because I had found out she had these lesbian relationships. And all I can think of is maybe she was having to squash these feelings down. I'm not going to sit here and tell you where her head was at the time that she shot herself, but I don't know all the details. My cousin has kind of, even though we're on good terms, she just hasn't been open to talking about it. But I can only imagine, And I will tell you that her name was Brooklyn, and Brooklyn did say 2 weeks prior to her aunt that, I don't think I will can ever make my mom happy. And I will say it was during the pandemic, and Brooklyn was very life of the party. Oh my God, life of the party. And so everything being on Zoom did play a part. I would say probably played a part in depression, because she thrived off, people. And so I'm not saying
you're told you can't find a community outside of this particular community. So
yes.
there's this mental personal block. Yeah. It's interesting because it's like, well, there's already an incredible amount of pressure coming from the congregation, from the religion, from the rules, from the self-policing, all the bite model, the behavior control, the information control, the thought control, the emotion control that's happening from this group. And it's not just this group. Like, imagine any other religion was also doing this, plus the pandemic. And then there's this bubble we're talking about being inside of, right? And once you're outside of, even if you're outside of that, there's also the regular society has its own crazy controls and pressures, and money being one of them, and government laws being another one. And then the pandemic, like the new rules, like you can't have social relationships. You can't go meet new people. Dating's basically off limits, essentially, like all these different rules. Of course, you can find your own loopholes to that, but everything was under pressure. So if someone was on the edge because of already being in a cult, like now the rest of the world is doing something just as high pressure. It's like there's like no way, and who knows when it's going to end. And it dragged on for a really long time, right? Like it was years,
Yeah.
2+ years.
Yeah. So I mean, I was just, and my kids were devastated because my kids were close to her. You know, they were all the same age. And so it was devastating. Well, the other second thing I want to point out about this, it was a huge eye opener, and waking up helped me wake up, is so I had all these cousins flying into Florida to support my cousin, the mother of the child the 28-year-old who committed suicide. And we just had this lovely support group there while we were there. And a lot of those cousins were disfellowshipped. Many of them were disfellowshipped or just had never been baptized. And there was so much love there. So much love. And I just had it up to here with the suicide thing and what was going on in the organization at the time. And I remember when I finally came home, I told my husband, oh, and by the way, I never really 100% shunned my cousins that were disfellowshipped. I kept in contact with them. I always had a good relationship with them, but kept them at an arm's distance. And I remember after that whole scenario, I came home and told my husband, never again am I ever going to keep my family at an arm's distance. Never, ever again. I am learning this is not
Like you
healthy.
saw valuable connections with them.
Yeah.
How have you since changed those
it was a huge turning point for me. Huge. But yet I still wasn't 100% woke up, but I was waking up. I can tell you that. And then, so then after that, let's see what happened. Oh my God. Okay. So then I got home and I go to my hairdresser doing my hair. And this hairdresser of mine, she is not a Jehovah's Witness, never been, but she has all these JW clients for some reason. I think because she was like reasonably priced. Most of the time she worked out of her home and stuff. So, and my mom went to her, and like I said, lots of other JWs went to her. I was probably one of the first. I mean, there was a couple of us, a few of us.
When you say went to her, what do you mean?
To get my hair done.
To get your hair done. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to this hairdresser who's never been a JW, but I considered her a friend also, not just my hairdresser. On occasion, we would go to dinner or hang out sometimes. So I considered her a friend. Well, I go to get my hair done and by the way, this is important. Again, I'm not giving any advice or not advice about the vaccine, but I just got to tell you this. This hairdresser had not had the vaccine, and she let all her clients know she had not had the vaccine. So basically, hey, if you don't feel comfortable with that, I just want you to know I haven't had it and whatever. So all the JWs knew she hadn't had it. And maybe she lost some, I'm not sure. Clients, I'm not sure. But she retained most of them. Well, I go to get my hair done. This is after my cousin committed suicide. And
I want to pause you there for a second because I've just looked up the terminology around suicide because there's been a push in the last few years to change how we use language. And you can do whatever you want. It's your story.
Sure.
But the language that's better or more ideal according to modern, I guess, what's it called? Political correctness. Died of suicide.
Political correctness.
Died of suicide rather than commit suicide, because commit's like committing a murder. Like the verb change. It's like, this is just a fact. It's neutral to say died of suicide.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. Okay.
It's a simple change, but I think it has some power.
I like that. Yeah. I like that.
And I think it's also like the religious term around that from the Jehovah's Witness or other religious perspective would be like committing a sin, using the word commit. It's like, well, you're the evil one in this scenario. but you also did it to yourself. So you died because of this
That's like a
thing.
proof. Yeah, my brain is going like crazy right now. Like, oh my God, epiphany. Yes.
Right.
That
And
makes
it's
so much
like
sense.
usually the people that are dying from suicide, there's an external cause to it, which is part of the reason why to change the language.
Wow. I love
Okay.
that.
Thank you for
Love
commenting on
that.
that as well, Chronicles of Lucy, for she was cringing in silence. They were cringing in silence. And I'm trying to incorporate these new things as they come to me. I didn't actually plan to talk so much about suicide. It's a big part of Steph's story. So here we
Oh,
are.
and
Deep
I
in.
love that. You learn something new every day. And that I'm gonna have to rewire my brain to say that. But it makes perfect sense to me.
We're going to do it in
Love that.
public.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I repeat that. Oh my gosh, I'll probably repeat the same bad. But I'll try to remember that. Not commit suicide. It's died by suicide, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Died
better
of
term.
suicide. They
That's a
write in
better
this article
term.
I found died of suicide. But I think by is relatively similar enough that we could probably go with by suicide. Get the grammar natural
Yeah,
sounding.
the grammar is important. I do
Yeah.
feel words are important. So
Mhm.
that I appreciate that. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forget where we were.
Yeah,
I was
sorry,
at the
derailed it.
hairdresser. I was at the
Okay, here we are.
hairdresser. I'm sitting in. So this hairdresser of mine, she does a lot of witnesses' hair, and she's an awesome person. She's never been a Jehovah's Witness, and she's,
Lucky.
like I'm sitting in this chair like now, and she's behind me, and she's doing my hair, and she was like, I'm not going to name names on the channel, but she says, so and so, I just did so and so's hair, and this woman lived in my parents' neighborhood, and she said, and my hairdresser knew that this couple, the husband was an elder, by the way, said, she knew they lived in my parent, and my dad was an elder. They knew they lived right in the same neighborhood, like a couple blocks away, and she's just like, oh, do you hang out a lot with Larry and Susie? Because you live in the same neighborhood and you're witnesses, and the lady goes, oh no, because they haven't been vaccinated.
Whoa.
But here's the but yet she knew the hairdresser hadn't been vaccinated. My hairdresser had told all her clients that, and like, hey, if you don't feel comfortable, don't come. But anyway, so she's like, here. So my hairdresser is telling me while I'm sitting in her chair, and she says, here, this person is sitting in my chair for 3 hours and getting her hair done in close proximity, knowing I haven't had the vaccine. She's willing to do that, but she won't hang out with her brother and sister in the congregation. It was a bad witness. Oh my God. It was a bad witness. And I was like, oh my God, you're kidding. And these people won't hang out with my parents. And my dad's even an elder because they didn't take the experimental jab.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. So anyway, I ended up telling my mom. Oh, my mom was pissed. My mom was so pissed. She wanted to go to this woman and give her a piece of her mind. And I was like,
Because
no,
she
Mom.
outed her for that? Basically, she
Well,
outed her opinion on
my mom
that?
did. Well, my mom wanted to like go to her. Whoops, sorry. I keep bumping the microphone. My mom wanted to go to her and out her and say, you know what? Oh, you don't want to hang out with us, because we didn't have the jab. How dare you? That's so unloving. But I was like, Mom, no, you can't tell her, because then the hairdresser might lose a client. Like she probably shouldn't have even told me this, right?
Right.
That's
true. Well, that's really
like, no,
thinking
Mom,
for the humanity
you
of
should
someone
not.
who's not in your religion.
Yeah. I was like, but I do think you should know that your quote friends aren't real friends. They won't hang out with you because you didn't have the jab. And so anyway, my mom, as far as I know, never did call her out, because I was like, please, we don't want to rat out the hairdresser.
I'll make it an Instagram and YouTube short out of this little clip, and then we can share it in the San Diego area and see what happens.
Yeah.
No,
Go for it. Go for it.
no, I won't do that.
Anyway, I that was funny, but I will say that was another waking up for me. Like,
yeah, this is interesting.
The lack of love. This woman, this elder's wife, would sit in the hairdresser's chair, knowing she's not vaccinated, for 3 hours, but she won't hang out with my mom and dad because they're not vaccinated, and yet they're her brothers and sisters in the congregation. That this is the hypocrisy of it all.
Right. There's often a question in these kind of conversations, like, what was the moment of wake up? And as we're learning, listening to your story, we're an hour and 30 in, and it's like little tiny moments or like that make you think differently and realize what's really going on, and what is your actual relationship like, and how petty someone is who's supposed to be and is regarded by the society as super spiritual, like a beacon and pillar of the congregation, a beacon of God's true light, right? Someone who always is representative of the true God of the universe. It's like, yeah, she's like petty AF at the salon.
Crazy. And I'm going to wrap it up soon, but the straw that broke the camel's back in my story is that, so we're getting a little towards the end here. I had a friend text me on a Monday morning, and this person's dad was an elder. I'm trying to be careful with my words here because I don't want to give this person away. This person,
the petty people in the salon named, but not this person.
Yeah, no. This was the straw that broke the camel's back that really woke me up. This person says, I stopped by my dad's. Oh, by the way, this person's dad was an elder. I stopped by my spouse and had dinner with my parents last night. And my dad said, I'm concentrating here to not give out who it is. My dad said that they just got an elder's letter, and that elders worldwide got this letter telling all the elders that they are to, and I'm paraphrasing here. On my channel, I actually show the actual letter. But
I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, it's how I woke up at 49. Saying that it's saying that they let me think. Oh, that they're telling elders worldwide to groom. They're grooming people. That's not the word they used. I'm paraphrasing. They're grooming. They want them to groom the young males to become elders in their early 20s. Okay, so then that would mean they would be appointing males in their like late teens to become like ministerial servants, and then they want them to be trying to groom them to be elders in their early 20s. Well, you know what the problem is with that? First thing I thought, elders, I'm sorry, in every situation, every tribe in history, every society in history, it is the older wise men, right?
Right. Yeah.
How can you imagine being a 40-year-old woman who has committed adultery or something, like cheated on your spouse, and you go to confess, and you're talking to a 22-year-old twit who has no life experience,
who has the title elder?
Yes.
Zero wisdom.
And they're probably getting off on your story because they ask all kinds of details. Mm-hmm. And I said,
let's call it successful adultery. Can we say that instead of committed adultery?
Yeah. I was like, something is wrong with this. What the F? Something's wrong with this,
Yeah.
And I said, what? number two, and then this person tells me, little does he know, my dad, I've already read this letter because they're leaked online all the time. And I
Interesting.
read them sometimes before the elders read them. And I was like, what? You can, how do you see this? I've never gone online to look at anything, apostate or negative or anything. So I was like, what? And so how does this person know this? And so I was like, these letters are leaked. Like, I'm like, my wheels are spinning in my head. So I'm going to tell you, I gave myself permission finally at 49 years old. That's so pathetic. 49 years old, I gave myself permission to go online, and I'm like shaking. My hands are shaking because I've never done this. And I literally type in elders letter, Jehovah's Witness elders letters. Well, I'm just going to tell you, the rest is history. Like, a whole slew of stuff came up, a whole slew of articles, websites, YouTube videos. YouTube videos really woke me up. And I just could not believe what I was learning. It was all factual and true stuff. You could find, truth and facts behind, and I was crazy. And then I found out, like, the term governing body was not even a term in the Bible. That was shocking to me. I am 49 years old at this point. Could not believe it. I watched I forget what his name is, what YouTube channel, but anyway, and I was like, oh my God, he's like, yeah, YouTube, governing body is not even a term in the Bible. I was like, what? Yes, it is. No, he's like, look it up in the search bar of the JW Bible. It's not there. And I remember specifically being on a walk in my neighborhood, and I stopped in my tracks. I look it up on my phone. Lo and behold, it's not there. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I said, what? My world was crumbling. I run back home practically, and my husband was there, and I walk in. He's at the dining table, and then he said, and I was like, you look at governing body, that's not even a term in the Bible. I can't believe this. And he didn't believe me. So he, like, slyly took out his phone, and he's like, and I was like, yeah, search it in the JW Bible search bar. And he did. And he didn't come up. And he was like,
Charismatic cult leader wasn't in there either.
Could not believe
Maybe
it.
Maybe like scribes and Pharisees, or like Pharisees and Sadducees might be the closest parallel in the Bible.
God, yeah.
If I were to think back, I haven't really given that much thought before, but
couldn't.
Like, what are the government structures similar to the Jehovah's Witnesses in the Bible? Would be like the old Jewish men that Jesus was denouncing throughout his entire gospel ministry.
So then I'll go on to, learn about the Australian Royal Commission, their involvement in the UN, the flip-flopping of doctrines. I really didn't understand or know about it. Like, for example, the organ transplants, 1 minute, it was like, oh, no, you can't do it. Yes.
Oh yeah, because they considered it cannibalism. Yeah,
and
like you can't get that medical care.
Yeah, can you imagine having a child that died, and the next week they're saying, oh yeah, no, it's okay now. Sorry. Oops, sorry for your loss.
Kidney transplants are actually like a really good idea. You should do that now. And it's like, our kid died.
Yeah. I mean, all these things I couldn't believe. And then the Jerusalem, all the scholars agree it did not happen. Jehovah's Witnesses say it happened in 607 BCE. It did not.
587.
587. Yeah. I was like, which
there's outrageous amounts of evidence, and no one agrees with Jehovah's Witnesses. And the only reason why they used that number was to make 1914 a more important date, using their bizarre Bible math that they got from the failed doomsday group with many, many predictions that failed, the Millerites, which then transitioned into the Seventh-day Adventists, who also tried to predict the end of the world using their weird Bible math. which also failed and was incorrect. And then Charles Russell was like a part of that in his early 20s and was like, ooh, Bible math. And then he predicted the end of the world like 7 times. And then he died. The last one was 1914. But like his last one included 607.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
we're really still listening to that guy who followed a long history. Like that's first of all, one of the things that Jesus, or I don't know if it's Jesus supposedly, but in the Bible, it's like there will be false prophets talking about knowing the end, and like no one knows the time or day. And like Jehovah's Witnesses have proven to be the group repeatedly that does the one thing that we were warned about groups doing. If anything, they've given us 100% proof that they are not inspired.
Exactly.
Among many other things. They're obviously
yes, I
dangerous.
100% agree.
People are dying. So like that's also important. They're breaking laws. They're finding loopholes to laws and people are dying because of it. Like that's more important than the fact that they like swindled a bunch of people decades and centuries before.
Yeah. So then the next step in my, was that I had a sister-in-law one of my husband's brother's wives, we were talking, and it was like, blah, 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 blah. She was like talking, like she would share videos with me. I was sharing videos with her and all kinds of information back and forth for like, I don't know, a couple months or a few months, and she had claimed that she woke up about a month before me. And I do believe she was right.
Was that one-upmanship or just
and
like
I've
you were
had
sharing?
people ask me, like, how did you know you could talk to her? Because these things you can't just talk to anybody. And
it's tricky, right? You learn from being super vigilant and listening to every word someone says to find out who's safe and who's not safe to share certain kinds of information with you. You test, like, there's probably like, for me, I want to hear your perspective, but I can think of like 20 levels or something of different kinds of people. Like I could put an idea out there and see how people react to it. And like, okay, that person's safe, that person's not safe. I'll definitely never talk to that person about that thing. Like I was constantly doing that because you have to be vigilant because somebody could destroy your life just because they got the wrong opinion of you.
Yeah, exactly. So I've had people ask me, how did you know you could talk to her? Well, and I'm going to say, I don't know, because we had so many awesome like conversations and back and forth for so long that I don't remember if I said something to her and she was like, oh my God, she woke up, or if she said something to me and I said, like, oh, well, did you know this? I don't even remember, but but it was just so comforting to me to have somebody, especially family, one person in the family I could like talk to about this, and I was so appreciative of it. And I will forever be appreciative of her about that. So yeah, that was totally awesome. And then let's see. I'm gonna try to hurry this up. I know we're getting kind of long. Let's see. So then so now my husband and I are totally woke up, but we were thinking we're gonna be PMOs, physically and mentally out. We'll just like pretend we're still in it. But that didn't last long. I couldn't stand to like listen to even staying on Zoom, I couldn't stand to listen to the propaganda and the crap on there. And what happened was, so we got a little bit outed because when we were on Zoom, my one of my daughters, we were in the same congregation, and anytime her kids would, and they were pretty little, when they would answer on Zoom, we would always take our text message and go, oh, tell, Dorian, good job. She'd good comment. Good job, Arrow. She did such a great comment, and, go through all the children who would like answer.
Participated.
And then
reinforcing positive behavior control. Nice job.
Yeah. We were still believers. And then about this time, in-person meetings started up, and we had already woke up. So we were like we're not going to like in-person meetings. We'll just stay on Zoom and like be incognito sort of, like pretend witnesses. But let's see what happened. Oh, my daughter. So my daughter and her family did start going to in-person meetings, and they quickly realized we weren't even listening into Zoom because she wasn't. If the kids made a comment, we were no longer texting them that oh, good job for the comment, because we weren't hearing it.
Oof. Yeah. Right.
So like,
that's an
oh,
interesting thing if you're if you're a JW apologist in the comments, or if you're someone who's PMO, like San Diego PMO here, who's
I
been
love
commenting.
him.
You
Yeah.
know? Okay. I was wondering if you knew each other.
Yes.
If you are doing something to maintain your position in the culture, such as commenting on, giving someone praise for their comments, and then you stop, then people everyone's watching and paying attention to every single aspect of what people say, wear, and do all the time, because everyone's vigilant.
Which goes to show all the policing that goes on within the cult. Yeah. Lots
Even
of
the fact that you
policing.
were doing it was probably on some level like, I'm going to maintain my like status and like make sure I do positive reinforcement of good cult behavior. Participate, whatever. Repeat the nonsense. Like, as soon as you drop that, now everyone's like, she stops doing the thing she's doing. We should check in. And then they check in and they're like, we knew it. We knew you weren't paying attention. You revealed yourself, right? It's really culty, but this isn't just in cults. Like, this happens in all kinds of societies. It just happens to be like really, really Orwellian, really Big Brother-y in that one, and self-policing, but also policing each other at like the bottom, right? Like, if you're just like an average member, you're doing this stuff.
Oh yeah, you can't get away
to each
with
other.
Shit.
Yeah, the leadership are like getting informed by people at the bottom, but people at the bottom are like telling on each other and telling on. Like, if you tell on someone, that levels you up. And elders are like, ooh, we can trust Stef. Interesting. Now we know who we can't trust because she just pointed her out. So like, people are always doing this weird like escalation, de-escalation, getting trashed, getting boosted.
Yes, exactly. So, all right. So then,
It's so exhausting.
and I have to say, I thought at this point, from the conversations I had with my adult daughters and stuff, I honestly thought, my God, they may have woke up before me and they're just like afraid to tell me, like, and I'm not going to go into detail about these conversations, but I thought, whoa, maybe they're just afraid to tell us. And I think they might be woke up. So here's what happened. So, and they say, I will say, I said too much in the long run. I did everything that they tell you not to do. I did everything wrong. And so I went to a
who's
yoga.
they? Who's telling you what not to do? Like, people that talk about how to wake up your family, or people that tell you how to navigate?
Okay. Yeah, don't do this, don't do that. Oh, I did it all wrong. Well, okay. Because I did think my kids might be already woke up, because they're pretty they're kind of free-spirited like I was. And just conversations I've had with them, I like, oh yeah, maybe they might have been hinting at this all along and I wasn't picking up on it. Well, no. So I went to a yoga class. I went to a yoga class with my youngest daughter, who lives in San Clemente, Orange County, California. And after this yoga class, we're driving home, and I pointed out to her an article that I had just read about the piñata, and that they had changed their, again, this is in my video too, how I woke up, but how they've changed their stance on a piñata. They used to not be able to have a piñata at a party because it was, I don't know, had a pagan origin or whatever. Well, all of a sudden they said, oh, well, because it doesn't have the same connotation, you're allowed, you can have a piñata, and don't judge.
It's not at a human sacrifice. It's
don't have
like, it's filled with candy.
Yeah, don't have like a strong opinion if somebody has it on at a party, like, give them some grace. So I told her that, and I said, isn't that interesting? And I was like, I wonder why they don't apply that to other holidays like Christmas or birthdays. And she says, "Oh, well, Christmas, that's not Jesus' birthday." And I said, "Oh yeah, I know that." But most worldly people, they know that's not, I can tell you, they know that's not Jesus' birthday, but that's not what the holiday is about. And she's like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah, so I kind of wonder why they don't apply that same reasoning to other holidays." But I could tell she got real weird about it. And so I like changed the subject and like, okay, drop it, right? I like another bad move on my part. And then the next thing was my daughter, I text her, my other daughter, the older one. I text her because these are all things, right? I'm listening. I'm like realizing as I'm waking up and shocked by. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "Did you know in a 1947 awake that they condemned the Catholic Church for excommunicating people and that saying that it was unscriptural, and yet 5 years later in 1952 they adopted the practice? That is crazy." Well, I said too much. Oh my God. She calls me saying, "Oh my God, you're so negative," and blah blah blah. And like I like told like just talked to me like crap. And I was like, so then and then one other thing that happened, then my mom
Well, it's not like
called.
it's a mystery. Like that's printed in their own literature, right?
Yeah, but
Like
they
this
don't
is
know. They didn't know
right.
this. I can
Yeah.
guarantee you my kids had no idea. It
Yeah.
was so then in the same time frame, my mom calls me one morning. My parents, by the way, at this point were still talking to me, even though they knew I had a bad attitude. But my parents were still talking to me. My mom calls me and tells me a brother in their congregation committed suicide. And he was like, I think he was a ministerial servant or elder, left behind a wife and a couple kids. He had jumped off a bridge. And I was like, "Oh my God, not again." And later that day, I stewed over it all day. And when I talked to my mom the later that day, and I said, "Oh my God, people are dying to get out of this religion." So I texted her.
Oh my
And
God.
she's like, "Oh, no, no, I don't think so. I don't think so." I said, "Oh, they absolutely are, Mom. They absolutely are." I said, "There is a whole underground of people. And in fact, they have acronyms for them. And one of them is PMO, physically in, mentally out, where they don't believe the bullshit, but they're stuck in it because if they leave, they're going to lose everything, their whole social network." I'm not lying to you,
Here's a
Well,
perfect example. San Diego Pimo just wrote exactly what you're talking about. Countdown has started. I'm pretty much where I need to be, but I know the elders have been suspicious about me missing meetings. My exit plan is almost complete. It's like, yeah, some people need to plan it carefully, really, really carefully, because people are watching. The elders are suspicious. Like there's always someone watching. It's really tricky to navigate and maintain some kind of connection to family, even if it's a terribly like tiny amount of connection.
yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm finishing this up. I only have like 4 more bullet points, but so what happened is I told my mom about this, and she's like, "Oh, I don't think so." And I said, "Absolutely, this is absolutely true." And then long story short, I figured out that my 2 daughters and my mom were talking amongst themselves and sharing the things that I had shared with them, and put and then labeled me. Probably labeled me apostate. I don't know. And then my next thing you know, my daughters call us and tell us that there was a marking talk, because again, we're not even attending meetings online, but somebody up in Orange County uh tells my daughter, comes up to my daughter and tells her, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you're about your parents." And she's like, What about my parents?" And is totally embarrassed, right? And oh, well, they were marked. Well, first of all, a marking talk, you're
It's
not supposed to
anonymous,
tell the people.
right?
It's supposed to be
It's
anonymous.
anonymous.
So this is
Yeah,
this is
there's
what's
like different
flawed.
levels of
This is what's
punishments.
fucking flawed with this organization too.
Yeah, the gossip mill is
in addition
gigantic
to a
and
million other things.
has such reach.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry about your parents, and she's like, "What?" "Oh, well, there's a marking talk about your parents." Okay, so they contact us about this, and I was like, so we were like, "No, no, no, elder, nobody's told us anything." And in fact, we had like a ministerial servant friend of ours like said, "No, it's not about you. It was about somebody else." And we told our kids that, and they were like, "Oh, no, 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 no. We verified it with two other elders, and no, it's about you." And we were like, "Well, what elders?" "Oh, well, they couldn't tell us. Couldn't tell us
Oh,
who it
the
was."
elders get to be anonymous after meting out punishments, an anonymous punishment, and then telling the whole world. They're
Exactly.
protecting their identity.
It's so hypocritical. So
Yeah.
we were like, so then they couldn't tell us who, and then the next thing you know, they said, "We can no longer have any communication. We will never talk to you ever, ever again."
Which is
Never
crazy, right?
again.
Because that's marking is the anonymous, like, hey, there's like it's supposed to be this, as I remember it. You can correct me, but and it's been a lot of time since I've had this conversation. But like marking is like, we're not saying who it is, but there's like this thing happening in the region or the local congregation. And then there's private reproof, which is harsher. Like you did something serious, but we think you're sufficiently repentant of your sins and you're changing your ways. And then there's public reproof, which is you did that same serious thing and we think you're sufficiently repentant, but enough people know about it because of the gossip mill that we had to say it publicly and point you out and make you the guilty person. And then there's disfellowshipping, which is you did the exact same sin, enough people know about it, and we think that you need to be severely punished with the worst possible treatment we can imagine without murdering you. But if we could murder because of the local laws, we would totally murder you, but we're not going to do it. And there's a
They've
way to
said that
crawl
in their
back.
literature. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's horrific.
So the fact that your kids are like, because you were marked, we're so embarrassed, we're cutting you off forever. It's like, yo, that's the lightest possible punishment where we all agree that this person, first of all, they're not supposed to be known who they are. So if you leaked it, you're an asshole. But
Yes.
if you do find out, like, we're all good. Maybe just don't bring them to like the rock concert, but they can come to the congregation picnic and have like, what do you call it? Where you all share different, you bring your own meal?
Yeah,
Potluck.
like
You can do the potluck.
A potluck.
You can do the potluck on the beach or a potluck at the park or a thing after the church and everyone hangs out and socializes. Like that's totally fine for a marked person. It's like, don't go to the personal things. Like don't hang out one-on-one. It's like you're supposed to limit your social activity with them for like parties, creepy gatherings.
Yes, exactly. But our kids took it to a whole nother level. And this is the weird thing, Scott, that it boggles my husband and I's mind that our kids were not the most devout witnesses. I mean, these are kids that they were right before they started shunning us, they had gotten tattoos, and anybody that knows me and follows my channel knows I have a lot of tattoos, and I started getting them when I was in the organization. That's a whole nother subject. But my kids, they're not really following all the rules. They were getting tattoos, and there's some other things I might reveal later that they were, just they don't follow the rules. But yet, for some reason, they felt a need to abide by this one rule. And here this is very important for people to know it, and especially people that have never been Jehovah's Witnesses. Here's the thing where I feel like this is, oh my gosh, so important. They feel like if they don't abide by the rules of shunning us, then they too will be shunned. That's the problem. They're afraid they will be shunned by their peers and extended family from their husbands, right? Their husbands' families that are in the organization, in the cult, they will be then. So there's pressure from their husbands too to shun us, and so it's just this horrible thing that just happens. Like it it's abusive. It's an abusive behavior, but yet they're victims of it. They're victims of the cult.
Yeah, exactly. That you're talking about doing damage control, basically. Like your kids, my brothers and sisters, my parents, everyone who's close to me, the people that I actually care about, right? And it's been
Yeah.
15 years. They have to shun me because they know that if they don't, they will get treated the same way that they have to shun me.
Yeah.
And so they're protecting their own little bubble because if they don't want to lose their social status simply for having talked to me. You could get disfellowshipped. You could lose your access to your own family. And they're like in like fear, complete fear and shock that they now have to do this, but it's self-serving, it's self-preservation. And I feel for them.
Self-preservation. Oh my gosh, that's a great word. Or a great phrase that totally explains it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this point, we just I literally started having a nervous breakdown. I remember being in my living room. I would cry uncontrollably at night. I felt like my whole foundation had been ripped from under me. Everything I thought was true was no longer true. Uh, I literally was having a nervous breakdown. I had to go on medication for a while. I was seeing a therapist. I could there was times I would be driving and I'd have to pull over because I thought I was dying. Like I just from a panic attack. And I mean, I just had one thing after another happening. It was the emotional toll and physical toll it takes on you is so crazy. And I feel like I'm a strong person, like, but it will rock the best of people. Like
Yeah.
it was horrible. And then on top of that, March 2023, which my mother died April of 2023 unexpectedly, and that's a whole nother story I'm not going to get into. She died shunning me, and she was real healthy, so it was very unexpected. But the month before that, this goes back to the suicide thing. I had one of my really good friends, her sister called me and said, Holly has died. Holly committed suicide. Holly was still a believer.
There's another person.
Yeah, another person.
An additional.
Holly was my age, exact same age. So she would have been in 2023. She would have been. Let's see. I just turned 51, so she would have been about 49 or 50. I don't remember her birthday, but she was like 49, 50. She had been disfellowshipped for over 3 years. They kept her out because she had knowledge of CSA, child sex abuse, and they had been on a witch hunt for her here in our area. And she never even told me about it. I mean, she wasn't like going around telling people about it, but they knew she had knowledge of it, and they kept trying to get her on something. And I don't know exactly, but they got her on some minuscule thing and disfellowshipped her. They kept her out for 3.5 years. She had moved from here to Tennessee, back to her hometown, and she kept trying to fight her way back in. Her 2 adult daughters her sister told me, were shunning her. And finally she gave up, and she was, oh my God, the most beautiful inside and out person, like such a wonderful person. And she ended up shooting herself in the head again.
Wow.
At 50 or 49. I think she's 49. And because she had fought for over 3 years to get back into that organization. Like I said, she was still a believer. I was already mentally out, but I did keep in touch with her a little bit. Like I had talked to her 2 weeks before she did this. And I did know, like, there was no indication to me that she was going to do this or depressed even, like, and
well, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting topic to discuss. Like, is there any kind of resources that this religion or culture has for people that are going through something based on the emotion control that you were mentioning earlier. From my experience, there's nothing. If you go to the elders, like, you can't go to therapy, generally speaking. That's like a no-no in the religion. Like an outside source, they'll probably tell you to stop going to church. Like, don't let that happen. Like, that's definitely off topic. And if you go to the elders, that's like your one outlet. They're untrained men who probably wash windows for a living. Nothing wrong with washing windows, but they are absolutely uneducated and unqualified to help someone with a nuanced emotional or psychological distress, probably caused by you, as the elder. So what is that person going to say? Normally, from the people that I've talked to and my own personal experience,
Yeah.
Just read the Bible more and keep on going in service and talking about the good news of God's new coming paradise after the genocide. And it'll be awesome. Everything's going to be great. So, like, stop having emotions and just think about the moment where you get to sit by a lake and there'll be people with baskets of fruit walking around and animals you can pet. Cool. Like, that's it. That's your best attempt at emotional health, is telling me that I should imagine the picture on all of your propaganda that we peddle to people going door to door, and then just do that more, is keep on focusing on this thing. And then when you do focus on the future, it's like the retirement problem. Like, everything's gonna be awesome once I retire. I'm gonna work super, super hard and suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer. And then you get there and you're like, well, I just got to the place, but it's nothing like I expected, and now I'm exhausted. And ultimately, like, that paradise isn't real. And you could have just went to the local petting zoo if that's what your real dream was and that brought you real happiness, or like go build a house on a lake. There are lakes on the planet Earth, and you can do that if that's a real goal of yours. I don't know. I could go on and on, but like, their propaganda is so thin, and their solutions are terrible, and they have no answers for real problems, and they're the cause of the actual problem for most of these people. Not to say that like the world outside of their micro bubble is like perfectly awesome. No, it has all of the same kinds of control structures formatted in a different way, and we're ultimately controlled in other ways. But it's better if you're in control. You take your own control, and you're not just listening to a bunch of idiots.
Yeah. No, it's so true. But that's it in a nutshell. That's my story.
It ended on
I
suicide.
can't tell you how sad I am. My kids and grandkids, we were very close with. It's I've made a video on that too. It's called I forget the name of the thing. It was like, oh, how Jehovah's Witnesses stole our grandkids or something like that. Yeah, I think that's what it was. It is the most painful thing I've ever gone through. I miss my kids and my grandkids horribly. But I will say I would never go back to that religion. And I am happier than ever. Because let me tell you, freedom of mind is priceless. And that's the lesson right there. That is the lesson. Freedom of mind is priceless. And I refuse to give up, and on life. And trust me, when I first woke up, I was kind of suicidal. My therapist was like, did you really want to die, or you just want, relief from the pain? I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to die. I just would love relief from the pain. I just want to say there's help too out there for people. There's help. There's a lot of support groups out there now. And
can you drop some that were useful to you? Can you tell us where to go?
XJW, and I think it's XJW Empowerment Group. Let me look here.
Oh, on Facebook, the Facebook group with
there's a lot of Facebook groups. We have a group here in San Diego, but they have them all over the world now. Yeah, which is great. And if you just go on Facebook and look at stuff, let me see here. Groups, here we go, groups.
Maybe everyone in the comments too. If you found something that you think is useful, let's fill the chat with different groups that you think were valuable to you and are valuable to you.
This was really valuable to me. XJW, Jehovah's Witness, aka the Empowered Minds Worldwide group, is amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that one is actually has a huge population, and there's a lot of professional life coaches, I've been learning about this. There's a few of those people in my life, and they have training, but also there's people who have gone to school for psychology or therapy and are licensed professionals, but they're ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and they offer services to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So quite a few of those people are in that Empowered Minds group. And there's a lot of public speakers in there that are helping connect people. There's people that are using different techniques that are really powerful, like hypnotism that are like rewrite your subconscious. Sorry. Anyway, there's lots of psychotherapy that Denise is mentioning. That group is excellent.
And that's only one. There's a lot of others too.
I think I'm a member of everyone that exists in English and Spanish and a few other languages. But mostly because I want to like share stories like yours and with interviews like this. And so I spam all those groups. So thank you everyone. If you're out there and you've listened to this and you found it on Facebook, I'm not trying to spam. I'm trying to spread these ideas. And I hope other people share their stories like Steph has shared on my channel and on hers. And you should check out Steph's channel. And actually, I don't know if you have any more time. I'm down to keep on going for a minute because I was actually curious. Sure. Okay. I was actually curious.
I'm gonna grab my dog. My dog is trying to leave the room.
Okay, I'll monologue.
I think I'm gonna bring him on the camera though instead of
we'll meet your dog.
The room.
Okay.
Say hi.
Who do we have here?
Henry.
Wow. What kind of dog is this dog? I'm not a big dog person.
He's like a Chihuahua, terrier, Chihuahua terrier mutt, and maybe a little wiener dog in him. Yeah. He's been here the whole time with me, and he was like, at the last minute, he was scratching to get out, and I was like, "Oh my God, you're bugging me." Like, no, you're not going to come out of the room. You're going to say hi to everybody. Yeah. He's such a good dog. He's 12 years old now.
Oh, wow. He looks really healthy and young.
Yeah.
Nice. Can you
go ahead? Sorry.
We've got, let's see in the comment, looking for a low-cost self-help method. Check out the XW Diaries Recovery Workbook. Yeah, I've actually heard of that. I haven't actually gone and looked at it yet. I think is that a new tool? Chronicles of Lucifer just commented this. XW Diaries Recovery Workbook. Are there any other groups that you check out or any channels that you're a fan of that kind of inspired you to start your channel? Because you started this year, right? Like January 1st, I started it. It's so impressive because you've got so many subs already and your videos get tens of thousands of views. I've been doing this for so long and I've barely gotten there. So,
well, thank you.
I'm impressed. How did you do it, Steph? Tell everyone, inspire them to start a channel.
I'm still in the baby stages, very baby stages, but I just do it to give back to the community that helped me wake up. So if I could just help one person, I would be like grateful and so happy to do that. So that's why I do it. But let me look. I've got my phone here. Let me look at my other groups I follow. Let's see. There's the Liberati. Oh, the Liberati is a great group.
It's very active out of New York, but they're of course global. But they do like monthly video meetups, and there's a very active thread and a chat, and a lot of people that are freshly out, I would say. Does that make sense?
And it's a nonprofit organization. I think they're pretty much like want to help people that maybe, especially young ones that are trying to leave and don't have the money or.
Yeah, they have an inspiring, ambitious drive to do something like that, to create a spread out network of vetted people who are not like abusers to help take people in or help them transition and give advice or give a job or give a place to stay or a safe house or something.
Exactly. I love that. Yeah.
And at some point they'll get 501c3 status. I was talking to some of them. They're working on that. So they're really transparent as well, which I really appreciate. They're like, we want to do this. Here's our group of people that are working on it. We're trying to apply for this and that. And then eventually when we have that, we'll accept donations. So like they're trying to make a real system, which is great.
Oh, I love that. There is
Carrie Kay says she helps out with the bookshelf there. That's part of
There's
the
one
group, I think.
called I Want to Heal and Move On. And then there XJW Open Discussion. There's that one.
Yeah, that one's a good one. It's quite large as well.
Yeah.
Open discussions.
Oh, now if you just want some humor, who doesn't like humor? There's XJW Humor Will Set You Free.
Yeah.
I love that. I don't post like my videos and stuff on there because I feel like it's strictly for humor, and which has its place, and I think we all need that. So that's a great one.
Yeah, and it's important to like limit whatever you're posting to be on theme, because people are going to these groups to like get a certain emotional reaction, like that. Like I want to go for a laugh. I'm not joining the what is the terminology? I'm gonna get it right. The death by suicide or died by suicide group. I will go there if I want to like relate to that experience. But then there's the humor group, so you go there for that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And what was your motivation? I think you said it at the top of the hour, but just to like wrap up, like I made a movie, and I'm just going to shout it out right now. Witness Underground, the documentary. San Diego Pimo says, "Pardon the shift in subject." This is like 40 minutes ago, but I wanted to save it till the end. Lots of feelings, but the documentary needs to be seen. So that's now available on Tubi and Amazon and one more place. But if you go to witnessunderground.com, you can always see where you can stream it. And I know that you are supporting this creation of this documentary by our Patreon. So if you want to support on the Patreon, you can. But just watching it's also supporting it. Sharing it's even more support.
Yeah, it's a great documentary. I hope everybody goes and watches it. Now that it's on all these great platforms, and easy to watch, I hope everybody goes and sees your documentary. It's awesome. But you said, what was my inspiration? My inspiration was a couple things. It's twofold, maybe threefold, I don't know. But one, that I wanted to give back to the community that helped me wake up, which was the YouTube community. You can't have enough people telling their stories, and then just helping people, like giving like good critical thinking skills to you. I obviously had no critical thinking. Well, I don't want to sell myself short. But because there was things I questioned all along, but YouTube videos really helped me use my critical thinking skills. And then also I just wanted to, what was the other thing? What was the other thing? I just lost my thought. I just wanted to tell my story and let it, everybody know like what's going on because people think that Jehovah's Witnesses they're just these quirky people. They're innocent, but they're innocent but quirky.
Their marketing they nailed it. Like everyone in the world basically has that perspective, and it's so frustrating because I see all these like podcasts and shows that are like, check out these crazy cults, and I'm like, how is the one that we're a part of not even close, not even on these channels? Like, come on, we need the public perception to change, and I think that's starting to happen, which is great. And
every time I have not been on one plane ride where I haven't talked to somebody, and tell them my story if it comes up, and they have no idea, like they thank me all the time. Oh my God, thank you for letting me know. I just thought they're innocent, quirky people, and I was like, no, it's a brutal religion, and here's what they've done. Here's what they've done to me personally, and other people. And then also the third thing was the purpose was to bring awareness to the high rates of suicide within the religion.
Yeah. It's super important, and I hope that there's some development there and someone picks it up, because some research needs to be done. I'm so shocked, actually, because, I mean, you heard me ask. I'm like, wait, that's another person who you knew who shot themselves in the head at the prime of their life? Like, that's so insane. And like, wait, there's another one. Wait, there's another one. Wait, there's another one.
Another one. Like, and the ones that I mentioned that I personally knew were not isolated cases. Let me tell you. And I'm just talking in San Diego. It happens all the time, let alone worldwide. So the word really needs to get out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, your channel, my channel, I mean, we're all doing different things. We all have our own voices. And something I've realized, I have this dream to make a documentary, right? And so now years of work and time, we've put it out. Witness Underground, the documentary. But I thought I would find other former Jehovah's Witnesses who also wanted to make a documentary, and we would do it together. And maybe that will happen now, right?
Yeah.
But what I've realized is like, well, what are people actually doing? People are actually writing memoirs. People are actually starting YouTube channels in mass, especially at the stage you're at, which is, I just got out of this crazy thing and realized what it is, and I'm shocked. Oh my God. Not only do the members need to know this, the world needs to know this. Ex-members, like obviously you learned from other ex-members about a lot of this stuff. And now you're like, this isn't the general perception isn't that. And like the actual members need to know, and like your relationship with your family's broken. And what's I think is find really interesting is that people are like, well, now I have my voice. And you've said that you found your voice, and YouTube gives us an incredible ability to reach others with that voice. And then you get a response. And so a lot of people are commenting like, that 4 of the 5 channels that San Diego PMO found were from your recommendations, and it's a good way to check into yours to follow news and meetups, right? So like your voice is reaching a lot of people. Mine is growing, and I think the documentary is going to have an impact. And of course, it's not just that Witness Underground, the documentary, is like the best documentary. There's about a new documentary every year, and I'm very proud and happy that news channels and Vice and different organizations are creating something. The more, the merrier, and we all have a different story to tell. And I feel like if people are going to make YouTube channels, then let's help them make those YouTube channels. Like I would love to put this word out, and I'm sure I'm curious if you're into this, but mentoring people that want to start a YouTube channel.
Oh, absolutely. I would love to do that. Yeah.
Right. Let's expand, grow, and help people accelerate. Like you're an incredible example, because I literally have been trying to do this with a couple different channels, and then finally this one with this topic. I just got monetized like a week ago after 8 years of putting content on. You did that in 3 months, and that just is the power of like having a clear mission. Being consistent. Maybe you can speak to that.
And well, the funny thing is, I think I missed like I could have been monetized like a little earlier on, like, but I was not in it. I was not making the channel or making videos to make money, so I didn't really care. So I could have probably made more money starting a little bit earlier, but I wasn't paying attention to any of that because I was like, whatever. And then I was like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, it's funny. And it's not like you're making a lot of money.
No,
I don't want,
I think it's,
people are like, oh, are you making money from the channel? Oh,
it's like 50 cents a day at best.
Probably like 2,000 hours. I made $100 of 2,000 hours putting into it. Yeah.
Right.
You're not really making money.
No.
It's
and yeah. But it's nice that like after 8 years of YouTube profiting off of everything I made by putting ads in front of it, they're like, hey, we'll give you like 5% of the ad revenue.
Yeah.
Now, like, oh, thanks for the achievement.
Oh my God.
I'll take the 50 cents though.
Yeah, I'll take it too. Yeah,
it's also a weird thing. It's like, what brand, like we could do more than just getting ad revenue, right? If we wanted to like get into the podcasting side of this, the business side of it all, it costs money to make this. Like we're spending way more than we're making in ads.
Exactly.
Just on this software we're using right now, just to make it simple. It's for the mission, right? Like it's about the mission. But if we wanted to do like a brand,
I want
what
people
brand,
to know that.
Yeah. What's the brand like relationship we could have? Like what brand are we going to do for Jehovah's Witnesses? Like it doesn't even make any sense. Like,
it's
dog collars, pet food, health, BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com would be a good one. I should actually talk to them. I know a little bit culty does that. Yeah. Support Henry.
Henry.
Right. Get Henry dog food.
No, but seriously, people need to know, like, we're not in this to make the money. It literally comes from the heart. And, that there's God. If you're in it for the money, you're in the wrong business.
Right. Everyone will actually not follow you probably. Here's a great comment that it'll actually post. This Sunflower Moonchild, I'm pretty sure I know who this is, says, they need
Oh,
help
I
starting their
love the
podcasts.
name.
You guys are so inspirational. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I
So yeah,
love that
reach
name
out.
too. Sunflower Moonchild. I love that. Very hippie.
Yeah.
Love it.
But I would actually like to do and another we'll wrap it up here soon, but I would like to do like a deep dive with like how do you do your channel? How do you like actually do the nuts and bolts behind it to create what you want to create? How do you find your ideas? And
Okay.
everyone should go check out Stef Woke Up on YouTube. I think I put the link in the description already, but I'll add it again if it's not there everywhere. Oh, you got the app going for if you do like certain hand signals, you got the Mac thing. Did you see that?
Oh,
The balloons
really?
went up. Yeah. Whenever you you did that and then balloons went flying everywhere. That's a
That's
new weird
funny.
auto thing on Mac, I think. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for coming on, Steph, and for telling such a heart-wrenching story.
Thank you
And I
so much
hope
for
that,
having me. I appreciate it. I love everything you're doing and love your documentary. Everybody go watch it. Yeah.
awesome. Witnessunderground.com for watching the documentary and check out Steph Woke Up on YouTube. Take care, everybody.